Weight loss is a very simple process. Now, it comes down to energy balance primarily. Okay, so making sure that we're using more energy than we're consuming. So you may have heard in recent weeks or months or over the years that you've been following health and fitness advice of a term called calorie deficit. Now, if you're in a marginal calorie deficit for a prolonged period of time, you will lose body fat and you will lose weight. It is mathematically proven and scientifically proven that that is the number one fact when it comes to weight and fat loss. Second thing that you want to focus on, if you're keeping it very simple, is the fact that we need to be adequately hydrated. So yes, you've probably heard 2 to 4 litres of water per day, but if you're not drinking any water at this present moment in time, I would encourage you to drink a little bit more. Third, ensuring that you get quality sleep. Now, it's all well and good if you're getting 8 hours a night, but you're up 2 or 3 times through the night, maybe for prolonged periods as well. I would much rather you shorten your cycle or your sleep cycle down to maybe even 6 or 7 hours, but get really good quality, really good depth level of sleep. Now, if that's something you need to focus on, there's many variables and many things that you'd need to address to improve your sleep quality, but that is certainly one thing that you'd need to be focusing on. 4, activity levels. Increasing your activity levels to therefore create that calorie deficit that we're looking at. Calorie deficits don't just come from reducing your food, because chances are you're going to do that and do that and do that before, and then you're going to get to like a dead end. Whereas increasing your activity levels, your what we call EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis, which is your training in an environment like this, and then your NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is walking more and being more active in day-to-day life. These things are going to help with that deficit. And then we might look at macronutrient splits, okay, and we might look at your protein intake, we might look at how many carbs you're consuming, how many fats you're consuming. But as a general rule of thumb, that would probably come later down the line. If you stick to these 5 things, weight loss is very simple. However, weight loss isn't always easy, and I do understand that. Now, there are loads of things that can impact whether you're going to remain in a calorie deficit or not. But here are a few things that I wanted to briefly discuss with you as to why it might be one of these obstacles that is holding you back. Now, have you ever heard of hedonic foods? Now, hedonic foods or hedonic eating is basically when you choose to consume a food that you take great pleasure in consuming, regardless of your goal, regardless of staying in a calorie deficit. So, also known as maybe a vice, something you can just eat and eat and eat and eat for pure pleasure. Now, my hedonic foods, which certainly do hold me back somewhat, are rice cakes. I'm a big fan of chocolate covered or yogurt covered rice cakes. Now, these are hedonic foods because I'm not eating them to keep me in line with my goals or to help me. I'm purely eating these foods for pleasure. Now, sometimes you might eat through boredom. It gets to 7, 8 o'clock at night. You know, you've got nothing else to do, you've been to work, you've done your gym workout, and it's that mindless eating when you're watching maybe a bit of a TV program or a film and you're a bit bored, so you go and check the cupboards and, you know, you open a packet of crisps or a packet of biscuits, and before you know it, you're looking down, you're going, I've ate the whole pack. You might be sabotaging your results as a result of binge eating. Binge eating sometimes is directly correlated with the amount of stress that you're going through. And, you know, after a stressful week at work, you might open the crisps, open the biscuits, order a takeaway, drink many bottles of alcohol. These binges and these episodes where you're not truly managing your stress levels very well could be one of the reasons that are holding you back. Now, I understand that we all go through different stresses throughout our lives, different periods of stress, and everybody manages their stress completely differently. Now, what we don't want to get into a position of doing or in a regular habit of doing is sedating ourselves when we are stressed with alcohol, with drugs. And I'm not talking class A drugs, I'm talking, you know, alcohol's a drug, smoking, maybe drugs are your output, okay? But we don't want to get into that phase or into that position where we're sedating ourselves. Or you might even sedate yourselves through binge eating, and that gives you momentary pleasure. Hormones. Particularly for women. Women going through the menstrual cycle, various phases through your menstrual cycle that will make you feel completely different. And therefore, when you're feeling different, your emotions are different, your needs are different. And often, as a result of that, your nutritional choices, your cravings are different. Now, what I would suggest you do is have an understanding of what cravings you might have and maybe come up with a contingency plan to damage or limit the damage, so a bit of damage limitation. And finally, it might just be purely down to discipline. Are you really disciplined enough to get to the level of results that you want? Now, I'm a firm believer that with great success comes sacrifice, but maybe the sacrifices you're willing to make aren't in line with the expectations that you want. So are your expectations up here and your sacrifices here? Or are your expectations in level with your sacrifices? Well, if so, you're going to be in a great place to get results. These are just a number of things that might be holding you back, and I have a full understanding that weight loss isn't as easy as just being in a calorie deficit. Mathematically, a calorie deficit is where you want to be. Scientifically, a calorie deficit is what you need to be in, but we've got these and many other obstacles to face, and also to come up with maybe just a different perspective of how we can overcome these obstacles to certainly help you achieve your results. Hope that's helped. Any questions, obviously let me know. I'll be more than happy to help if I can.